All right, boys, so for today, we'll be recording the fastest PC on the planet again. All right, so we're actually going to be building my PC. I'm actually building myself a PC since starting this channel. The last one I had, I think, was back in the 10900K days, right? So I'm pretty damn excited. Hopefully I get back into some gaming here pretty soon once this thing is finished. So the 14900KS just came out, and even though that CPU is pretty useless, it still is the fastest, so we got to make a new build every 100 megahertz refresh. So you guys know the drill then. Let's go over all of the parts, let's do the build, and then let's do some benchmarks at the end. Just FYI though, all parts in this build will be affiliate linked down below if you want to build one of these monstrosities for yourself. Also, all these parts are listed on my website, framechasers.org, under the recommended parts list. This build here is going to be the one at the very top, where all the fastest components are listed. Now, the first component we got to start with, obviously, we already mentioned it, the 14900KS. Now, you buy this CPU for, what is it, $750, and you disable 3/4 of it, but it is a very fast 8-core. And then for the motherboard, obviously, we got the Z790 Apex Encore. I didn't use the Tachyon for mine just because this one looks nicer. That's literally the only reason. Just a random aside here. Now that EVGA is out of the game now with their the Dark Kingpin, MSI hasn't made another Unify X, so we really only have two options. And Asus kind of won by default by making their board look the nicest, right? We need, EVGA is not coming back, but we do need MSI to make another Unify X, at least for the 15th gen. Now, for a plot twist I bet you didn't see coming. For the NVMe drive, we're going to be using an Optane. Now, is the Optane actually the fastest NVMe drive? I actually don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't benchmarked it yet, but when we actually get it installed in the rig, then I will do a video in the future benchmarking it against like a 990 Pro or something. So make sure you subscribe because you don't want to miss that. And for the graphics card, I'm going to be using the 4090 Gaming X Trio. Now, the only reason I'm using this one is because this one is just the best one that I have. I've got about 5 4090s from different manufacturers, and this one specifically just has the best bin. It's also the OG one where the voltage limit goes to 1.1 volt. If you buy a 4090 now, the new silicon is limited to 1.07 volts. That doesn't make a big difference. It's like 30 megahertz for an extra 100 watts, but still the fastest. And then maybe we'll put some liquid metal on this bad boy. Now for the fans, we gotta go full COD bro. TL LCDs from Lian Li. The most nonsensical creation to ever exist in PC hardware. We gotta use it. Now, the next two components were supplied by MSI. They wanted to help out, get me caught up on that Steam library list. This is their 1300 watt Platinum Gen 5 compatible power supply. Now, this thing is, we'll put this thing to the test because this rig as a whole is gonna pull a shit ton of power. We'll do some power measurements after, but 1300 watts is probably gonna be just right for this thing. Thanks to MSI for sending over the power supply. I've never used an MSI power supply before, so I'm stoked, I'm excited. We'll get to see what it can actually do. Now, the final piece of the pie. La pièce de résistance. The real reason I have not built myself a rig in over 3 years, honestly, is because I was just waiting for a case to come out that just was not an O11. You guys know the one I'm talking about. It is the Maestro 700L PZ. Now, MSI, if you guys do watch this video, make sure to tell your engineering boys over there that for 15th gen, they release a back connect Unify X. A back connect 2-DIMM motherboard is the only thing that I would change about this build. Now for the rest of the build, we are going to be doing a full custom loop and stuff, but I ordered a bunch of random shit from AliExpress, and it took like 2 months to get here, right? And you can't really affiliate link that stuff, so I'm going to explain the parts that I'm using as I go along. Just for example, this thing here, it's from a brand called Granzen. It's like a high-end Bixby brand, and they got this thing here. It's just a cool concept. I'm trying it out, right? It's basically a radiator, a 360 mil, with a DDC pump built into the end of it. So you don't need to use a pump and reservoir if you have this radiator. The thing about custom water cooling and like affiliate links and all that kind of stuff is you can't really do it because the world of water cooling is just so subjective and so custom. You could use whatever components you want and it would be completely different to what I'm doing today. And the memory that we're going to be using for this build is Frame Chaser's memory. This is the fastest DDR5 that you can get on the planet, and I did sell out of the first batch, but I did order one more batch. So I will have a drop of them available after this video, but if you do miss out and they sell out again, then you'll just gotta check it back once a week, once every 2 weeks, and I'll restock the store as I have time to assemble them. And those are all the components that we're gonna be using. Let's get building. Oh my God, dude. This thing is just as nice as I remember it. Oh man. Just one piece glass just makes it so much more premium than all the other fish tank style builds. Like, you know, I'm gonna affiliate link this thing in the description down below, but I don't even want to because I don't want you guys using the same case as me. This thing is just, man, I am so happy I get to build in this case. Legit. Now it looks like it comes pre-installed with this riser bracket. I'm gonna see if I can use my graphics card without it. I just absolutely hate using riser cables. Even though they quote unquote work, I have had nothing but disasters with them, and I just can't be bothered anymore. Honestly, I want my shit to just work. There we go. Yeah, I removed all that stuff here, and now there's way more room for radiators and fans down below. So before actually screwing anything down, we gotta take a look at the radiator placement and fitment, right? Because if you take a look here, because there's a water pump attached to the end of the radiator over here, it's much longer, not much, but it's significantly enough longer to where you might have fitment issues with this thing, right? That's why I'm not really affiliate linking this kind of thing. It's too custom, right? Now the issue that I'm going to run into here is at the top, right? So we have to put the pump on this side up top. I'm using 2 of these things, right? And when you actually slide it in, it does fit, except when you actually try to put a fan in as well, it's gonna hit the motherboard here. So we might actually have to take a Dremel and slice the ROG kind of heat shield part off a little bit, and then it should fit. Now, just barely, yeah, look at that, yeah. Okay, so after a lot of dremeling and fitting, etc., I got the bottom and top pump radiators finally installed. Let me tell you, there's not a single millimeter of space on either side of these things. These things are as tight as your mom 10 years after your dad left for cigarettes. So this power supply here actually looks like you can connect it with a USB, and then I'm assuming MSI Center will tell you how much power draw the thing is. We'll check that out after when we get the whole thing set up, but I do like those kind of features. Okay, that's a really nice attention to detail here. So now I know why they sent me the power supply, because if you install this Meg power supply with the Meg case, the exhaust ports here, like little triangles, matches the rest of the back of the case here, because they all have the little triangles, right? Just a little attention to detail there that most people wouldn't notice, but that's really appreciated. Oh yeah, it also comes with pre-sleeved cables too. That's gonna make life so much easier. Now I will be using EK's Delta cooler, mainly because it's such a bad product that I can't sell it to anybody. But it's also like not unusable if you know what you're doing. So it'll still perform well, but you can kind of start to see why we're gonna need that 1300 watt power supply, right? Now, the biggest problem with the tech cooler is it doesn't actually output enough power to make a difference over, let's say, like an Iceman Direct die, right? So either way, you're gonna get 6 gigahertz all core. It's just that this thing is gonna pull an extra 200 watts to do it for no reason, right? But it does look really nice though, right? So, I mean, we are going for aesthetics on this build as well as performance, so it works out. I'm gonna use it. Okay, so we're actually not gonna go with the Optane because it's like a U.2 form factor, and it comes with this like ribbon cable thing, which would be fine if it pointed this way, but it doesn't. The NVMe slot points this way. So when I install it, it's like the cable's got to come out and then back around, and it's just going to look too ugly, right? But I will benchmark this in a separate video just because I'm curious. But for the purposes of this build, we'll just go with a 990 Pro, right? It is what it is. So for the water block for the 4090 Trio here, we're going to be using an EK water block. Now, the irony is not lost on me, because I talk a lot on this channel about EK's build quality and customer service, right? So having 2 EK products in my build doesn't make any sense. Well, the tech cooler, I already explained that. The only reason I'm using this water block is because I got it for free from a supporter of mine. Shout out to Wonder Miho. So if it's free, I'll use it, but I wouldn't pay for it. Now, guys, do not use liquid metal on your GPU. Honestly, it's not worth it. It doesn't do anything. It voids your warranty, and it's almost impossible to clean up after, okay? A lot of the things I do on this channel are just for funsies because I know what I'm doing, but honestly, do not use liquid metal on your die. Seriously, it's just, you've been warned, okay? A lot of other water block manufacturers, even like the cheap ones like Barrow on AliExpress, they will include like a 2-slot and single-slot bracket, so it saves space in your case. But EK decided not to do that, so we got to still take up 3 slots even though we're using a water block. Okay, here we go. So the case actually comes with this MSI kind of anti-sag kind of gizmo here, but I can't use it with my setup because my radiator and my fans are too thick, so it just flexes the graphics card just a little too much, even on its lowest setting. So I'll use this for something else, but I'll have to figure something else out for the sag. Okay, so we fit everything in there just barely. Now, the last thing remaining is just the water lines. So I'm gonna go off screen, get that done, because I don't even know how I'm gonna route this just yet. And I will see you guys on the other side for the reveal.
I'll never get tired of the enemy. Got them both
So there were a few things on this build that didn't fit, but it comes with the territory of custom loops, especially when you're doing it blind in a new case, right? But if you do decide to do a custom loop in this case, and you're just using normal radiators and normal pumps, you won't have any issues whatsoever. But the reason why I decided to use these specific radiators was because I wanted a separate loop for the graphics card. That's why the coolant is green. And then I wanted a separate loop for the CPU, which is blue. Blue for Intel, green for NVIDIA, right? And how I have it running is the bottom 3 fans here and the bottom pump are tied to the graphics card temperature. And then the 3 fans on the side here and at the top, plus this pump, are tied into the CPU temperatures. Now you might be asking, wouldn't it be smarter to put 2 radiators on the graphics card and 1 on the CPU? No, this tech cooler, you'll see when we go upstairs, but this tech cooler plus the CPU power draw pulls way more power than the graphics card. In order to use the tech cooler effectively, you need 2 360mm radiators minimum. Now, some of you with a keen eye might be thinking, why isn't the memory water cooled? Now, here is where we encountered not a design flaw, but a design oversight on this case, right? So when you see this rear 120mm fan here, they made the clearance so tight that in fact this TL120 fan didn't even fit back here. So in order to make it fit, I actually had to use nuts and washers for all 4 of the holes. If you just use the regular fan screws, it kind of torques the fan on an angle, and then the blades rub against the housing and makes noise, right? So, and then we encountered another problem. So because I had to use nuts and bolts for the fan on the rear to make it fit properly, the glass didn't close, right? Because the glass kind of goes over these screws. So then what I had to do is I had to take a Dremel and cut out 2 little slits right here in order to clear those nuts and bolts. It all ended up working fine, but how does this relate back to the memory? So initially, I did plan on doing 3 separate loops, right? I did get this 120mm kind of water pump all-in-one type thing, same as the other 2, and this was going to be my dedicated water cooling loop for the memory that was supposed to go here. But clearly, you can see there's not even close to enough room for that, right? But that's not going to affect performance at all, though, because the Frame Chaser's memory, the heat sinks on those things are pure copper, so they run just as cool water-cooled as they do air-cooled, right? So nothing bad ended up happening, but if you guys do use those affiliate links and build one of these monstrosities for yourself, let's say you do get a TL fan for the rear here, you might want to get screws that are either flush or get ready to grind down the front panel. Also, if MSI does decide to make a version 2 of this case, the only thing that I would change is just make the back here a little bit bigger for a 120mm fan, even possibly a radiator. So that's the build, boys. I can finally play games once again and get back to competing. Okay, we got the PC up here, and I'm just kind of screwing around with the fan profiles and stuff, just trying to dial it in perfectly. And then I launched MSI Center here to see if the power supply would come up with that USB cable, and yeah, it totally does. And it reads the power draw, the efficiency, and the temperature and everything here, which is pretty awesome. You can click over here, real-time dashboard, and I guess it gives you all the graphs live in real time. That's pretty sweet, man. But what we're interested in seeing is how much power draw this system pulls. I mean, with the tech cooler down here, it's turned on, max power, afterburner, max power, whatever. Let's run it all together and see how much power this thing pulls. So with the graphics card running in Heaven Benchmark, you can add about 100 watts for a 4K, right? And the CPU going, the memory going, everything running full tilt right now, we're pulling about 875 to about 900 watts of total power draw. That's an Intel and NVIDIA system, baby. That power draw. So one more thing I want to show you guys is why you don't need more than 360 millimeters of radiator for the graphics card, right? Now, in this system here, it's a closed loop, right? It's under pressure. There's no air bubbles or air holes anywhere, right? Now, you can kind of think of it like a car radiator, right? Now, we've been looping for about 15 minutes straight, and it's kind of settled at 52 Celsius, 1.1 volts, and almost 3.1 gigahertz, right? About 375 watts for about 15 minutes, right? And then it just sits there. And then the fan I have here running off the GPU temperature, and it's at, oh, went to sleep. There you go. And it's running about 1300 RPM. You can't even hear it, right? So that's why I put 2 radiators for the CPU and only 1 for the graphics card, because it's not even warm, dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? So unfortunately, we ran out of time today, guys. This video took way too long to make, but don't worry. Those of you that subscribe to the channel, we will be pitting this thing against a 7800 X3D in a future benchmark video. But in the meantime, I will be benchmarking and tuning this thing live at kick.com/framechasers. So head on over there if you want to interact with me on my live stream. And don't forget to head on over to framechasers.org to become a supporter, get yourself a memory kit, or go to the recommended parts list, which will have the entire parts list of this build in that section. Anyway, guys, I hope you learned something, and if you like the content, hit that subscribe button, do all that YouTube SEO stuff, like, share, subscribe, comment down below what you think of the fastest PC in 2024, and I will see you guys competing in game. Talk to you later. Where are we going? Hey, where are we going? Huh? Oh, yeah.